Is this the best Nerf pistol? Well, in my opinion, heck yeah, it is. Seriously, I love the Gecko, designed by Ehdrien. This one specifically printed out by my buddy Valor. So freaking much, I don't even know how I'm going to make it through this video without rambling like an idiot. And not only do I have this, but there's a bunch of stuff coming out very soon that is very similar to it. So that leaves the question. I still like this the most, but why? Let's get into it. The Gecko. The files for this 3D printed Nerf blaster are available down in the description below. And hey, while you're going down there, like as a drive-by, like wave to the, the like button and maybe check out that subscribe button a little bit well if you like this kind of content. This is a magazine in grip fed Springer Nerf pistol. It shoots short darts. In this one, I'm using Adventure Force Pro darts. This thing is a beast of a little pistol. It is rather compact for what it is, and if it looks familiar, that's because it's designed specifically off a weapon from Cyberpunk 2077. It is the Militech Omaha pistol. However, you may know it more by its iconic name, the Lizzie, and I think that might be where the name of the Gecko comes from. The Lizzie being a four-shot shotgun grip-fed magazine pistol that you could charge up and release like a whole volley of shotgun blasts. I love it. It's my favorite pistol in the game, although I haven't gotten like the one-shot revolver that apparently just insta-kills everything. And yes, mag-fed, in-grip, Springer pistol. And it's, she pops. Now, the Gecko's included magazine in the files that is powered by a single Nerf drum mag spring is a 10-rounder. However, it's not limited to only this magazine. It is compatible with worker angled mags. So if you didn't feel like you had a reason to get them yet, well, those reasons are slowly building, because this is 20 darts, and we just kind of put that in here, and suddenly we have a 20 dart blaster that's that big. And if it needed anything else, you can hold down the trigger and prime it back, and then when you prime it forward, it slaps, and you can keep doing it. Yeah, I really like this thing. The build for it is incredibly simple in my opinion, although it does require a somewhat specialty tool that you might not have immediate access to or knowledge of how to use, and that is the brass heat set insert and a soldering iron, because all these screw threads in here are not just pieces of plastic, it's actually metal that's been melted into the plastic that makes this an extremely rigid and non-flexible and very durable setup for a 3D printed blaster. And with a blaster like this, ergonomics are always important, and in my opinion, it is a very comfortable blaster, despite the fact that it's being designed to basically mimic something from a video game. And it has that in-grip Talon mag, which makes the grip a little bit bigger than normal, but as you can see, even in my small hands, it is very, very comfortable to use. I have no problems with it whatsoever. The slide being up at the front could be a little bit awkward for some people, but it's not too bad. It does really work well if you're firing it off your hip or something with Slamfire, and if you're doing single shots, yeah, it would be nice to have the pull back here or something, but you get used to it really quickly. It's a total of like 14, 15, 16 maybe pieces that are not very big at all, and print time isn't that much. Even though I did not print it out, I did print out a couple of replacement parts because the one I have here is a very early version, and there have been upgrades such as this sight being extended back with a bar in order to cover up that spring. There is of course a rail that can go down here to add Picatinny rail. This rail back here, this Picatinny rail, is actually custom made by Valor, and of course the turnaround in here has had several design changes in order to make it a little bit more reliable. And the black magic way in which this blaster works is actually pretty incredible. It works very similarly to the Lynx, if you were aware of that. Basically, when you insert a magazine and prime the slide back, this moves backwards, this has a pusher inside of it, and then you're also compressing the spring into a catch at the same time. When you push it back forward, you are loading a dart into the barrel, and that pusher seals behind. The plunger tube is all the way down here. You can actually see the metal plunger tube right there, and basically this trigger just engages at the catch at the front of the blaster, which previously moved back against the plunger tube to compress the spring. That catch gets released, that plunger head slams forward, it goes through the turnaround in order to deliver the airflow from this section up to this section, and since the pusher is sealing against the back of the breech, the airflow only has one direction to go out, and that's through the barrel. You can actually see this knob right here is in fact the plunger rod being caught, and this little thing right here is actually connected to the trigger. So when I pull the trigger, you will actually see that happen. Oh, it's ingenious. And the funniest part about this is Ehdrien didn't really work for months or years or anything to get this done. He started this project in like freaking December or something like that. And it's amazing. The hardware isn't all that inaccessible. It's actually pretty easy to get. Most of it's like hardware store fittings and spare screws and springs and stuff like that. However, the plunger tube will have to be hand cut, and the barrel can be a lot of different things. Polycarb was the barrel this thing came with, and I swapped it out for this leftover Prophecy barrel that Luchathor let me have. The spring is a 9kg turf spring, although that can certainly go up, and there's space in there to even have some kind of spacer if you wanted to get a little bit better compression off of it. The Chronograph numbers. This thing has been a temperamental project for me. I have taken it apart probably about a dozen times so far, but in its current setup with fresh darts, I can hit reliably over 140, which is actually a bit too hot for HVZ, which I think is the game mode that this pistol shines in. Slamfire doesn't really drop the FPS all that much, although it does limit your reliability, and I'm just going to say your mileage will vary on the Slamfire. And in a size comparison, this is the Dart Zone Pro Mark II, which is the current hotness. This is, of course, the 3D printed Gecko. And as you can see, the Gecko is actually maybe slightly thinner than the Dart Zone Pro Mark II, but the Dart Zone Pro Mark II is smaller, not by a whole lot, but enough. However, this has an internal 6-round magazine, hits about 130 to 150 without any kind of upgrades. This can hit 140 right now, has detachable magazines, much higher capacity, much quicker to reload. And yes, there is no magazine release. It is simply friction fit in there. This orange piece right there is actually a piece of plastic that springs against the magazine, so it just comes out when you tug on it. It's not going to come out if you try to shake it out. And that leaves us to where I think the Gecko will actually shine, and that is, of course, HVZ. Typically, I would not recommend using short darts for HVZ, but in this setup, it's really hard not to, because you have a blaster this small, with Slamfire, with detachable magazines, that can hit upwards of probably any HVZ cap you're going to run into, and due to its size, due to the size of the ammo and everything like this could very well be a primary for you, and with the less bulk you're running around with, faster you could pick your fights that you want to stay in, the faster you could retreat from the ones you don't. And while it may not be for everyone, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of HVZers out there that are going to look at this in awe. It's even compatible with the 10-round angled mags that came with the freaking Phoenix. It is impossible not to love this blaster. An easy build, easy print, hits pretty hard, might need a little tweaking here or there to get a flawless seal, but it looks cool and it is amazing. I cannot recommend the Gecko enough. Seriously. Ehdrien, you've outdone yourself. I know it's still a slight work in progress, although you can, again, pick up the files down in the description below. And I thank Valor very much for printing one of these off and getting to me as fast as he did. He actually got this to me back in January, but I was working with Ehdrien to see when he was actually ready to launch it, and also working on the blaster myself to get as reliable as I can for this video. I'm very happy with where it's at right now, but of course, let me know what you think about the Gecko, and if you're a little skeptical about it, what could push you over the edge? I know the Zinc has a lot of fans out there, and I know this is very similar to it. I know the Zinc can also hit much harder. I saw people saying that it can hit over 200 FPS, which I could agree with that massive plunger tube. And is that all you care about in a blaster, or does the Gecko do something that tickles your fancy? And this is the super secret upgrade for the Gecko that will turn it into an absolute HVZ monster, or just a very competent spam machine, regardless of where you happen to want to use it. It's only an early prototype, but my goodness, pump action on a pistol, Slamfire, 140 FPS, all you need to do is remove 3 little screws and it's ready to go. You're gonna have a hard time telling me that that isn't the coolest thing ever. Because that was probably the most fun I've had with a blaster in it. Maybe ever. Maybe since the strong arm. I frickin' love this. It is only a prototype, I should mention that. This is not a finished product, it is a very rough mock-up on my end for the concept. I am excited to get this finished. But that's that. I'm Walcom S7. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you got all the way to the end and you haven't already, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more Nerf-related content in this beautiful, massive hobby that has just awesome people that make stuff like this and make me so freaking excited to be a part of this. Man, I love it. I love it so much. I've seriously, this thing has never left my desk. I have been playing with it for so long, and sometime I hope to take it to an actual war, because it is just begging to actually be used. And of course, actually get the finished version of that pump action kit and everything on it. Oh, thank you very much for watching this video, and of course, I hope to see you in an entirely different one. I'm so good!
You gotta